Hi guys, my name is Kelon George and I'm doing this video for one purpose, and that is to let you know that there is hope in the most difficult, hard and trying situation in your life. You may ask, how do I know that? I myself have been through depression. I have been heartbroken. I have been sick. But guess what? I have overcome. I want to let you know that you too can overcome.
I'm on my journey. I'm on my mission.
My depression started when I was in England. One night I was strangely awakened out of my sleep. I was traumatized by that awakening. I got up from my bed and all my mind and my soul and my body was telling me was to get outside of the house. I grabbed up pants and I quickly ran outside, down the stairs and into the parking lot to have a seat. If I had stayed in there any second, again, God knows what would have happened to me. When I got outside, I rushed to have a seat on one of the benches. When I got to the bench, I couldn't see a thing. My mind was blank. All I was seeing was darkness. I remember that song came to my mind at that time. Hallelujah. Anyhow, never let life troubles get you down. When life troubles come your way, hold your head up high and say, hallelujah. Anyhow, I started singing that song to myself as I started to lose consciousness. And bit by bit, I started to regain back my consciousness. I remember after I got back normal, I took my phone and called my father and tell him to come see me immediately. Look what have just happened to me. It wasn't an easy moment. It was hard. It was tough. And that is where the depression really started on me. Soon after, anxiety attack, panic attack, one after the other. It was so difficult being in England and being so stressed and so traumatized by the depression. I told my dad that I would have to leave England and go back to my homeland. So I decided to take a plane and head back home. When I got home, I was thinking that the depression would get better. It only got worse. I started suffering from even more rapid anxiety and panic attack. It was really hard for me. I suffered almost a year from that depression. I know how it is to feel like you want to give up. I've been there. I know how it feels to want to take your own life, because I've been there. So if there is anyone who is looking and who is suffering from depression, I want to let you know that I have overcome my depression. You too can overcome your depression. Don't give up. No matter what you are facing, sickness, financial problem, don't give up. You too can overcome, because I have. Presently, I'm married and I have 3 kids, Zion, Serenity, and my lovely newborn baby, Kelowna. Recently, my son Zion climbed up a pear tree and he fell. I heard when my son hit the ground. I heard when he screamed. So I ran to him. When I got to him, I saw his foot was trembling, his hands was trembling, and his hands was like that, couldn't move them. So I told him, I said, Zion, move your hands. He tried to move it, but he started to bawl in pain. I realized something was definitely wrong, so I raised him up. I brought him on the bed inside, and I put him there, thinking that everything would be okay. Within a few seconds, both hands and the wrist started to swell. I got so scared that I grabbed him and I put on clothes on him and I told my wife, let's rush to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, the doctor said that they would have to do an x-ray on his both hands. It came back, the doctor came back and said to us that his both hands is broken in the wrist and he have to do surgery on both wrists. My heart was broken. Looking at my son in so much of pain, so much of suffering. So they placed a semi-cast on his hand and we went home to prepare for the operation. That night, my son was in excruciating pain. We had to fan him for the whole night, crying and moaning in pain. On the day of the operation, it was so hard, and my son got scared, and we had to let him know that, son, Zion, everything is going to be okay. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. We pushed him up with the nurses and the doctors up to the operating room, and we sat outside the operating room waiting patiently in anticipation to see and to know what would be the outcome. A little while after, the doctor and the nurses came out with him, and they said that the operation was successful. And they had 2 heavy, big casts on his hand, and they said that the cast would have to be on his hand for the next 5 weeks. It was hard. It was really hard. But we went home, and we had to do everything for him. We had to brush his teeth. We had to bathe him. We had to wipe his butt. Every single thing we had to do. We had to scratch inside the cast. You know, it was so uncomfortable for him. You know, and every day I would try to encourage him, you know, that the 5 weeks is near. But we got through it. We got through it. So while home as a family now with our son and being in cast, one day we had to take my wife to the doctor for a regular checkup because my wife was pregnant at that time. And when we got to the hospital and my wife did the checkup, the doctors and the nurses were shocked. And they said to my wife, she cannot walk an inch because her life is at risk and the baby is at risk. So immediately they put her on a wheelchair and they brought her down to lie immediately on one of the beds. And they told me that my wife would have to be in the hospital for the next 3 weeks. I said to myself, gosh, how worse can it get? My son, 2 hands, is broken and is in a cast. And now my wife has to stay 3 months in the hospital. Could life get any harder than that? Nevertheless, I went home, packed all her stuff, and brought it back up to the hospital. To make it short, while my wife was on the bed rest for the 3 months at the general hospital, she started to bleed heavily, very heavily. The nurses got scared. My wife started to cry. So the nurses, they plugged up, you know, her on the machine, you know, to test her and whatnot. And then they realized that her blood was too low. She had just lost too much of blood. And that, which have just happened, both her and the baby can die. So immediately she called me and she said that the nurses said that she would have to go do an emergency operation right now. Listen, I didn't have words at that time. It was so scary. So I rushed to the hospital to see her as they were packing our stuff to go to the operating room immediately. And the nurse was straight with us. The nurse said that the possibility exists that the child can die, and even my wife can die in the process because of the premature birth of the child, that they have to take the child now. It was really traumatizing. So I told my wife, just as I told my son, that everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be okay. So my wife was wheeled into the operating room. And a second time, I'm sitting outside the operating room, waiting in anticipation, as how I did for my son, to see and to know the outcome. While I was waiting there, one of the doctors came out very quick. And surprisingly, I saw him with the baby in his hand. And he said to me that the baby is in good health. I was so happy. I was so happy to hear that. And he said that they are putting back my wife together. And one of the nurses came out also and assured me that everything is going to be fine. Soon after, one of the nurses came out and told me that I can come in the operating room to see my wife. And I went in and I stand by the side of my wife, and as she regained consciousness, not knowing even who was standing by her. It was tough. It was challenging. But we got through it. We got through it. I was so happy to know that my wife made it through that process, a difficult process. Because while I was in the hospital, I saw a young lady lying on the bed. And my wife told me that the child in her belly is dead. And the young lady was very low, very low. I also got to understand that there was a young lady who went through the same process that my wife did. And when they removed the child from her, when time for the young lady to get back up, she didn't make it. And there was a next young lady who made her child. And after, her pressure went up and a vessel in her head got burst and she died. So I'm very fortunate to have my wife and my baby daughter Kelon with me. I'm thankful for that. So my wife came out of the operation and was recovering. So I went back home. And while I was home, I received a call from one of my family members, a disturbing call, disturbing again. I received that call and one of my family members was saying that my grandfather had just died in his bed, right in his bed. My heart was broken again. Could it get any worse than that? We were mourning the death of our grandfather now. And we came together as a family and we started to prepare for his funeral. My wife is in the hospital, recovering from operation. My son is home, 2 hands broken in cast. And I've just received a call now that my grandfather has just died. Life was just messed up for me at that time. So we then was preparing to bury my grandfather. All these pain and suffering and darkness that I've just described I've been through has been one of the most terrifying times of my life. I was able to get through these times of sorrow and heartache by writing some of my original songs. songs of hope, songs of encouragement, songs of inspiration. My greatest desire is to share these songs of hope and encouragement and inspiration with you, so that these songs can help you through your darkest time. So I have created a YouTube channel, and on that channel I'll be uploading all my original songs. So I'm asking you to help me share hope to this hopeless world by sharing, liking, and commenting to my YouTube channel, so that together we can encourage one another and encourage those who are in pain. So no matter what you're facing, please be strong.
I'm on my journey, I'm on my mission. Pure opposition. I'm trying to reach my destination. I'm on my journey, I'm on my mission. Pure opposition. I'm trying to reach, I gotta be strong, strong, strong. I gotta be strong, strong, strong. I gotta be strong to reach my destination. Strong, strong, strong. I gotta be strong, strong, strong. I gotta be strong to reach my destination.